Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nate Eaton. Thank you for being here this afternoon, doing a lunchtime Courtroom Insider. At least here in Idaho, it's noon. So I'd love to know where you're watching from today and how you're doing. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I just got back from vacation late last night. I should say early this morning. So forgive the tired eyes because we had a really great vacation. I'll tell you what kept me going during the trial. I'm just making sure that we're everywhere where we can be seen. Every day during the trial, I think, okay, when this is all over, I get to go with my wife and my kids to Legoland and to Universal Studios. We had planned this trip. My kids love Mario, my boys. So we had planned to go to the new Mario World at Universal Studios. And so that is like what kind of kept me going during the whole trial, I guess, is looking forward to going to Mario Land in California. So we spent the weekend in California, and I have always said since 2020, when this case broke, that if I want news to happen in the Daybell case, I need to go on vacation. Because I swear without fail, every time I go somewhere, something happens. We went away for Christmas a few years ago, and that's when Mark Means was kicked off the case. We went on a cruise a few weeks ago with my family, with my parents and siblings, and the day that we boarded the ship is when Lori's attorneys filed the motion for a new trial, partially based on the interview I did with the juror, which we'll talk about today. I went on this trip to California, and there was a hearing that I missed. Caitlin, my colleague, Caitlin Hart, was there. I'm going to have her come on in a minute and talk about what happened. But I missed that. And tragically, sadly, I got in California late Thursday night and learned that Tammy Daybell's mother had passed away. We're going to remember her this afternoon as we talk about the case. Samantha's mother as well, and Phyllis Douglas. So that happened. And then anyway, there's a lot that happened. But I was able to meet several of you actually on our vacation in California, oddly enough. And people were coming up to me at Legoland and at Universal Studios and in the airport saying hello. And it's good to know that so many people are watching from all over the world. And I love to hear where you are watching from. So again, the big news for today to talk about with the case is that a hearing was held Thursday morning in the Fremont County Courthouse. Lori was there in person with her attorneys in a jailhouse uniform, and she was not dressed up like she has been at previous hearings. There was no need for her to dress up. There were no cameras allowed in the courtroom, unfortunately, but as I said, Caitlin was there, and she heard the argument. I do want to play the footage in case you haven't seen it of Lori. Just one moment here. Leaving the courthouse yesterday, Jordan, our photographer, captured this footage here. See her walk out. She was smiling. And there she goes. So that may be the second to last time we see her in that courthouse, because the next time we see her, she will be getting sentenced. Presumably so, unless there's some other motion or something filed between now and then where they call on her to go to the courthouse. That will be it. That should be it. And that'll be interesting to not have her there anymore. She'll then head off to the Idaho Department of Correction, where, assuming that she will be sentenced to a longer sentence than what than the jail would call for, which you can go to the county jail if you are sentenced less than a year in the facility. So that was her yesterday. This whole hearing revolved around a motion that was filed at the last day. The defense had 14 days to file a motion asking the judge to kick out the verdict, the guilty verdict. And they argued three reasons why. Basically, summarizing it, two of the reasons were the wording was unclear, the jury didn't understand. There was one part of the hearing where or the instructions weren't clear to the jury, and there were issues with that. The other reason is that they said, based on an interview that I did with Saul Hernandez, juror number 8, the jury misunderstood some of the instructions. So Lori's attorneys filed a motion saying, let's kick out the verdict, please, Judge. Can we make that happen? And then the prosecution responded in writing, and the defense asked for an oral hearing. Now, I talked to a lot of attorneys, even a couple of judges, about this when it was filed. I stand by the interview I did with the juror without a doubt. I'd do it again. I'd love to interview all the jurors. I know some of you may disagree with that, but I think that it's important to find out the judicial system, find out what happened behind those doors as much as they want to share. But I was a little worried. You'd hate for something to happen where all of a sudden, because of an interview I did, Lori Vallow the verdict is thrown out and we have to do it all again. And her attorneys mentioned that if the judge did dismiss it, that they would just presume that they would have the trial with Chads again next year, next April. And they said that they would be fine with that. And so I was curious to find out what the judge would say. And based on what the attorneys I spoke with and the prosecutors I spoke with, they said that this is pretty standard for the defense attorneys to file these motions. Obviously, they have to do what they can to protect their client and get their client, represent her and defend her, and that is what they were doing. So they filed this motion, and I want to bring in Caitlin now because Caitlin was in the courtroom. She can kind of give you an idea of what happened there during the hearing. And if you want to listen to it, we've posted the audio on our YouTube page, the whole hearing, and you can go listen to it and get your own thoughts on what happened. But let me bring in Caitlin here, and she can talk about what happened at the hearing yesterday. Maybe. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, here we go. All right, Caitlin. So you were in court yesterday. Describe, first of all, what was the feeling in the courtroom when you got there?
It was actually pretty quiet yesterday. There wasn't any family in the courtroom. None of Lori's family was there. Kate and Larry weren't there. It was mostly just a couple reporters, 2 or 3 reporters, a couple of bloggers, and the detectives. For the most part, it was pretty technical. So I think everybody was just trying to listen as hard as they could.
Yeah, a lot of people have told me this was more of a procedural type of filing where the defense, has I don't want to say last ditch effort, but submits this in hopes that it might get overturned. I don't know if anyone really thought that the verdict would be overturned. What was Lori's demeanor like?
Usually, she's smiling and kind of laughing and talking with her attorneys, and that's exactly how it was yesterday too. She was laughing and smiling with John Thomas and Jim Archibald. At one point, they did take a 20-minute break, and she left the courtroom talking and chatting. When she came back, the whole time she was wearing ankle shackles, but when she came back, she kind of came around the wall and slipped and hit the wall and tripped over her ankle shackles, and then kind of got up and looked to see if anybody looked, and of course everybody did see, and so she was a little bit embarrassed, I think. But she walked over to her chair that's like 2 or 3 feet lower than everybody else's and sat down and continued to smile. Her hair was all pulled back and tied up, and she had the usual makeup on and everything. The difference today though was that she was in Madison County jail scrubs, which was new for her.
Yeah, I was trying to think. We saw her in a jail outfit back in like March of 2020 when they flew her back from Hawaii for her first court appearance, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But in person, at least, she's been in dress clothes, dressed up. But that obviously wasn't the case yesterday. So the argument was have the verdict thrown out. The defense made 3 key points as to why they felt the verdict, or why the verdict should be thrown out. What was your overall take? Just a brief summary. Why were they arguing that this verdict should be tossed?
Yeah, there was 3 main reasons. The first 2 had to do with language in the indictment and the jury instructions. And then the third one had to do with an interview that you did with Saul Hernandez, juror number 8 on the trial. They were arguing whether or not he said something to the effect of if he was confused in the jury instructions, which it doesn't seem like he was. Judge Boyce decided that he wasn't going to give Lori a new trial because none of the arguments were strong enough to back up any of those claims. They did say that the original indictment said there was 5 co-conspirators, and then they later changed it to 2, just Lori and Chad, and none of that had any effect on the verdict. So Judge Boyce just kind of went over that in some really technical detail for his ruling, and told them that basically the defense didn't have a strong enough argument for them to go through that all over again.
Yeah. And the prosecution, Lindsay Blake, responded, right?
Right. Yeah. Lindsay Blake did an amazing job. She, was very technical. She had everything laid out, and she just kind of said, um, none of these arguments are strong enough. And even if the language was different, it doesn't affect the outcome. All the evidence is still there. The jury still made their decision. At one point, Judge Boyce even said during his ruling, we don't ever go into the jury and ask them why they made specific decisions. We don't ever go in the room and ask them, did they flip a coin? Did you pick straws? I know they didn't do that. So none of these arguments are really compelling enough to make me think that Lori didn't get a fair trial.
Yeah, and Saul did do a follow-up interview with me. When that motion was filed, he was concerned that he had misstated himself and wanted to clarify things. The interesting point, too, I heard Judge Boyce, I went back last night and listened to the recording. Didn't he say that the defense actually never submitted the interview? So he actually didn't watch it because the judge didn't have it as evidence.
Yeah, it sounds like the defense attorneys never actually formally submitted either like a transcript of the interview or the video itself to Judge Boyce. So he was sitting up there on, in the podium, and he was saying, like, I don't even have this in front of me. I don't think he didn't ever say that he had watched it. He doesn't have the quotes. And so he said, this isn't evidence. It's not in an affidavit. It's in nothing. So I can't really rule on something if it's not in front of me and if it was never submitted by the defense.
Yeah, a lot of judges make it a point not to read anything about the cases that they're presiding over, other than the official court filing. And I imagine in this case, there's so much media coverage that I doubt Judge Boyce is staying up at night reading all of these comments. Caitlin, I get asked this all the time when I cover these hearings. What was Lori's demeanor like? So now I'm asking you, what did she take notes? Was she paying attention? Was she smiling? I mean, what did you notice?
She was taking notes. Yeah, she had a big yellow legal pad with her, and she was taking notes pretty diligently. For the most part, honestly, she just kind of sat there with her legs crossed and staring ahead of her. I mean, she was obviously listening to the arguments, and she listened to Judge Boyce and everything, but for the most part, it's not exactly what you would imagine somebody who's just been sentenced for crimes as heinous as her to act like. I mean, she was smiling and laughing whenever she would look over at her lawyers. She often, when she would leave the room, she would look back at reporters and just kind of smile and nod her head like hello. And I mean, it's just normal Lori as I've seen her.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything that you wanted to add? Anything that you want the public to know about the hearing yesterday?
I don't think so. I just think that this one was a lot quieter than usual. I think the sentencing will probably be a lot more busy. I think especially because family will be there, and we can count on a lot of awesome reporting to come on July 31st.
Well, and you did a great job live tweeting, and I think
Thank
that
you.
a lot of people, it can be taxing to try to listen and then relay the information out, and then you got to compile it all and write a story. But you did it all, so we're glad you could go cover it.
Thank you. It's difficult. I learned that yesterday, but it's rewarding. I think it's cool. It's cool to live tweet and see people's reactions in real time.
Yeah. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much.
I'm muted. Sorry. Jordan just came in. Thank you, Jordan. I just wanted to show that the judge issued an order yesterday afternoon after the trial, after the hearing. On May 25th, 2023, the defendant filed a motion for a new trial. On June 7th, 2023, the state filed an objection and memorandum in response to the defendant's motion. On June 15th, the court called the motion for hearing. For the reasons stated on the record during the hearing, the defense motion for a new trial is denied. So there it is in writing. So Lori's not getting a new trial. Now, will she appeal? I know so many of you are asking that question. Yes, we can expect that. Her attorneys have said that she'll appeal. She will have a different set of attorneys when she appeals. A different set of attorneys will look at the prosecutor side, probably on the appellate level. Maybe the Supreme Court or another group of attorneys will look at that. And with that, I don't think that there will necessarily, there could be oral arguments and hearings during the appellate level, but oftentimes there are not. The judges, the appellate judges, just look over the case, and sometimes they say, all right, we don't need to have another hearing. We'll just go based on what was written, what was filed. But sometimes there could be. So who knows? There could be, we could be at an appellate hearing in a year for Lori Vallow Daybell if she decides to appeal. There's a set of time. I don't know the exact dates, how many days she has before she decides to appeal once she's sentenced. And we'll go from there. So sentencing, next hearing, July 31st, unless something comes up between now and then. That's a Monday. And this was also filed over the past week or so about the victim impact statements. Now, victims are permitted in hearings, in cases, to give a statement during sentencing. And sometimes this is done in writing where you submit a letter to the judge and it can be read publicly. I've been in victim impact statements where someone has called into the courtroom because they can't make it there and they give their statement over the phone. Often the people actually take the stand and look the defendant directly in the eye and speak to them. And they talk about how the crimes have impacted their lives. So the judge issued an order because it appears that some people submitted requests to the court to give these victim impact statements. And so the judge wanted to be clear that basically not just everybody can say, I'm a victim, and at least in the eyes of the law, and get up and give a statement. I mean, if that were the case, you could say you were impacted by this and wanted to give a statement to Lori Vallow, and we could be there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that's not what's going to happen. So Judge Boyce issued this 7-page order, saying, here's who qualifies in the eyes of the law in Idaho as a victim. So here's who can give the statements. He said that 7 people filed victims' rights forms. And this is what he ruled as followed. There are 4 victims in the indictment: Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and the U.S. government. A jury found that Tylee Ryan, meaning technically the U.S. government, I guess all of us, citizens, residents, the jury found that Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, and Tamara Daybell died by homicide. Idaho law establishes that victims' rights may be applied equally to the immediate families of homicide victims. Brandon Boudreaux filed a victims' rights form. Boudreaux testified at the trial that he was formerly married to Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Pulowski. This means that Boudreaux would be the ex-uncle-in-law to Lori's children, Tylee and JJ. This designation does not fall within Idaho's definition of immediate family members of homicide victims. So Brandon will not be able to give a victim impact statement because he's not an immediate family member in the eyes of the law. Rex Connor filed a victim's rights form. Now, Rex Connor is Lori's uncle. He was at the trial several days. I've interviewed him. You can go back and watch those interviews. He wanted to give a statement. The judge said the record does not establish who Rex Connor is, and therefore the court cannot ascertain his relationship, if any, to the named victims in the case, and whether he's an immediate family member under Idaho law. Well, he's not. Under the Idaho law, the immediate family member, I guess I should have read that to you, is okay, here we go. Immediate family member consists of, in the eyes of Idaho law, parent, mother-in-law, father-in-law, mother, father, husband, wife, sister, brother, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, or a son or daughter. So the judge cited another case, State versus Shackelford in 2013, where he talked about this case, and then in State versus Payne, the court held that victim impact statements are immediate family members. So Rex Connor, not an immediate family member. Vicky Hoban is Phyllis Douglas's sister, but Tammy Daybell's aunt. So Tammy Daybell's aunt, Vicky, filed a victim's rights form. The record does not establish who Vicky Hoban is, and therefore the court cannot ascertain her relationship, if any, to the named victims in the case and whether she's an immediate family member under Idaho law. So she can't give a statement. Colby Ryan filed the victim's rights form. Colby Ryan is the half-brother and adoptive brother to Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. Therefore, he is an immediate family member and is permitted to render a victim impact statement and exercise all enumerated rights afforded to the immediate family members of homicide victims. So, Colby will give a victim impact statement. Summer Shiflett filed a victim's rights form. As previously ordered, she was designated as a representative of Lori Vallow, of Tylee Ryan's mother, Lori Vallow, who could qualify as an immediate family member of Tylee Ryan. Because she's an aunt, she's technically not an immediate family member, but the judge ordered her as Tylee's representative because her mother was on trial. So she was kind of the surrogate mother, I guess you could say. As a court-designated representative, Summer Shiflett is permitted to render a victim impact statement. So you've got Colby, you've got Summer. Third, you've got Kay Woodcock. She filed the form as previously ordered. She was designated as a representative of JJ's father, Charles, who would qualify as an immediate family member. So she was the surrogate for JJ, or for Charles Vallow. She was the surrogate to represent JJ so she can give a statement. Larry Woodcock, though, cannot. As previously ordered, Larry Woodcock does not meet Idaho's legal definition of immediate family member in relation to any of the named victims. And I know that's going to kill Larry. And I know that so many of you are upset that he can't give a statement. We'll interview him after. I know it's not the same. And Kay could probably include what Larry says too, but it's just not the same. Now, the court did go on to say, right after he listed out who can speak, Judge Boyce, to be clear, as stated previously, the court recognizes that several of these individuals have inarguably been impacted by the homicide of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy Daybell. This order, in no uncertain terms, is not meant to minimize or disregard what any individual has experienced connected to the deaths in this case. Notwithstanding, the court will apply the law in Idaho and not risk committing error by expanding the scope of what is plainly stated in statute and clarified by Idaho case law. The court states that this order does not preclude additional consideration of further information that may be submitted to further determine if an individual qualifies. Those individuals who qualify as immediate family members under Idaho law of the named homicide victims are entitled to exercise their rights by completing a form and supplying it to the prosecuting attorney. So more people could file immediate family members. Maybe it would be Tammy's sisters. You could have Tammy's children. I don't think that's going to happen, but you could legally, in the eyes of the law, they could file as victims and give a statement to Lori Vallow. You could have other immediate family members, but we know for sure that on the 31st, we'll hear from Colby, Summer, and Kay Woodcock. Lori will also be given the chance to speak. I don't know if she will. I've heard different occasions on whether she will or won't. I don't know if she really knows until that day if she will be speaking or not. So that's what will happen. I do know, too, that, the Tammy Daybell's extended family has been going through a lot over the past week as Phyllis passed away. Phyllis raised her children and was a great woman. I met Phyllis back in 2020, I think, 2021 maybe. Maybe it was 2020. And we had a great visit. I posted this on Facebook the other day. This is Phyllis with Ron, their son, Samantha, Jason. I went over. It was it was actually 2020. Now that I'm thinking about it, and it was the 4th of July weekend, and I had reached out to Samantha and Jason. We had never met in person, and I just said, "Do you mind if I come and meet you?" No cameras, just off the record. And I went and met with them, and we had a great visit. And in the middle of our visit, in came Samantha's parents, Ron and Phyllis. And they were so lovely, such wonderful, wonderful people. Phyllis had a great laugh. She had a great laugh, and she would go from laughing about a hysterical memory with Tammy to sobbing. Tammy had not been dead for a year at this point, and you could feel the anguish and hear it in her voice. And they told some great stories about Tammy, about her being the miracle baby, and just so many good memories with them. And then I saw Phyllis another time or two after that, and she was always so wonderful. And so is Ron. Ron's a great guy, and they have really worked to keep their family together through all of this. And Phyllis has had bad health for quite a while. For years, she's battled leukemia, I believe. And it took a toll on her. I'm told that, Ron filed a motion with the court, or a request that they would be able to have the trial live streamed to their house, because they couldn't make it up to Idaho. Phyllis was in such poor health, and that was denied, that they couldn't watch it. And so from what I've been told, Ron would read her the updates that I would post daily and let her know what was happening. And the trial ended the Friday before Mother's Day. And then Phyllis just never kind of recovered after that, and she passed away on the 8th. What a life, what a life. I do want to share with you her obituary, because as I've said before, I know we talk a lot about Chad and Lori for good reason. They're charged with horrible crimes, and that needs to be in the news, and we need to talk about what they're accused of doing and what they've been convicted now of doing, and we'll continue to do that. But often in these stories, the victims are forgotten, the people that are really impacted by all of this. And that's, in this case, Tammy Daybell's family, her parents and her children. This was the obituary we got. Phyllis Darlene Douglas, December 8th, 1946 to June 8th of 2023. Phyllis Darlene Douglas, a beloved member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, passed away peacefully in her home in Springville at the age of 76. She fought a courageous 30-year battle with chronic lymphatic leukemia, I think that's how you say it, demonstrating unwavering strength and faith throughout her journey. Phyllis was born on Sunday, December 8, 1946 in Nissau, Oregon, as the first child of Randolph Samuel Cooper and Lucille May Calvert. As a child, Phyllis grew up in various locations across the Pacific Northwest, including Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. She exemplified a strong work ethic from a young age, excelling academically throughout her childhood. In high school, Phyllis emerged as a champion debater and played an active role in student government. She graduated from Franklin High School in Portland, Oregon, where she was known for her remarkable accomplishments. Phyllis chaired a student committee and was voted most likely to succeed by her peers. A social butterfly by nature, Phyllis had an extraordinary ability to connect with others. She possessed a deep love for dancing and music, often organizing weekend dance parties that brought joy to those around her. With her beautiful singing voice, she frequently graced important life events of family and friends with her melodious tunes. Phyllis's dedication to her education and exceptional grades earned her a coveted spot at Brigham Young University. During her time at BYU, she formed lifelong friendships, sang in a rock band, and had a fateful encounter with her soulmate, Ronald Max Douglas, in an acting class in 1967. They were united in marriage and sealed for time and all eternity in the Los Angeles Temple on December 30th, 1967. After Ron's graduation from BYU in May 1968, the couple settled in South Pasadena, California, and subsequently lived in Baldwin Park in Anaheim for the next 15 years. Their family loves Disney, I'll tell you that. During this time, they welcomed 4 of their 5 children into the world: Michael, Tamara, Samantha, and Matthew. Phyllis, a woman of ambition and entrepreneurship, began a Tupperware sales business in 1971. Over the years, she diligently built her business into a successful unit known as the Funny Faces, eventually expanding into a wholesale distributorship that brought her and Ron back to Provo, Utah. Phyllis wholeheartedly served in various capacities within the LDS Church, but her most notable service spanned over 2 decades with the Young Women organization. Even years later, women who had been influenced by Phyllis's stalwart example, positive attitude, and keen sense of humor during her formative years sought her out to express their love and appreciation. Following the sale of their Tupperware distributorship, Phyllis pursued her passion for gardening and attained the title of Master Gardener from USU. She possessed a remarkable green thumb and could make any plant flourish. Phyllis served as the nursery manager at Ernst Anderson Lumber and Stock Building Supply, where her expertise and dedication shone. In her later years, Phyllis dedicated her time and efforts to family history. Over the course of 15 years, she painstakingly submitted tens of thousands of names for ordnance work to be completed in temples of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Her commitment to preserving and honoring her family's heritage was unparalleled. Phyllis was renowned for her open-door policy. Anyone who crossed her threshold was greeted warmly and encouraged to help themselves to snacks from the pantry and candy drawer. I think that extended down to her children, because when I got there, Samantha's house, they had cookies and Coca-Cola. It was very welcoming. Throughout the years, family and friends found solace in her hospitality, always welcome to stay for a night or more. And then it goes on to say how she was preceded in death by her father, Randolph, her mother, Lucille, and her daughter, Tammy. She's survived by her devoted husband, Ronald, and their 5 children, along with the grandchildren. No mention of Chad anywhere, by the way. Phyllis is also survived by her younger siblings. Funeral services will be held at 11 on Thursday, June 22nd. Prior to services, a viewing will take place. She'll be laid to rest at Evergreen Cemetery. For those unable to attend in person, a live stream will be available. In honor of Phyllis's life and dedication to others, the family requests that instead of flowers, donations be made to the Tammy Douglas Daybell Foundation. The foundation stands as a testament to Phyllis's enduring love and commitment to her family, extending support and care to those in need. And there is Phyllis Douglas. So this is Tammy's mom, reunited with her daughter once again, and her funeral will take place next week in Utah. All right, I think that's all we've got. I don't think we're going to do questions today. I haven't had time to go through them, and I'm going to be completely honest. We got in so early this morning from our flight, and I came to work, and I'm a little tired, so I apologize if I haven't seen with it today. No, not making any excuses, but the post-vacation recovery. But I did want to come on today and discuss the case with you, discuss the latest, what's happening, and then, of course, gear up for the 31st. I'm following some other interesting stories that are happening in our area, and I've had a few of you reach out to me about some other fascinating things that I hopefully can get on here in the next few weeks or so and talk about those cases with you. So thank you for watching. Here's where you can follow me. There's my reporter page, Instagram, Twitter, and East Idaho News. We're going to be posting some fun family stuff here in the next little while from our trip. We had a really, really amazing visit with a very famous actor who took us to breakfast for an hour. It unbelievable story. I've told Erica we got to sit down and tell it to you. So this happened while we were in Los Angeles, and Emmy did an interview with the person, and he was the nicest ever. Like, I can't even describe him to you. I'm not going to tell you who he is. I got to keep you in suspense, but you'll know him. You will know him without a doubt. He took us to breakfast at his favorite restaurant, and it was amazing. It was so cool. So we're gonna have that video coming up, and then we went to Universal Studios. I already posted. If you go to the Meet and the Eatons YouTube page, we did some Legoland's behind the scenes stuff. We did a tour of Legoland, and then Emmy did a 7 questions there. And so we had a good trip, but we're glad to be back. Glad to be back in the news swing of things, and I appreciate you all watching and keeping us here in mind, and we'll stay on the case. Big thanks to Caitlin. You can follow her on Twitter as well. If you want to go back and read the tweets she sent from the hearing yesterday, they're on there. I don't know her handle, but we'll look it up right now. I think it's Caitlin News. It's Caitlin Hart. That's her name. It's Caitlin Hart-reporter at News with Kate, K-A-I-T, News with Kate. You can follow her there. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Summer's here. Have a good weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.